Hey guys, Scott Knoll here, your Troop Master from Trail Life Troop 1685 in Indiana, Noblesville. So at our last meeting I discussed that I was going to put out a video on how to choose your trailman's first knife, or pocket knife. I decided to split this into a two-part series. So this is part one. Today is January 30th, 2020. And I'm trying to get my window to close, there we go. So this is more of almost like a parenting advice or parenting thoughts on whether or not your trailman is even ready for a knife, okay? And these are some things you might want to think about. A lot of times what we do when it comes to raising of our children is based upon the way we were raised as kids. And so sometimes the situations are different and require a little more thought. And so my situation when I was growing up is very different than my children now. And I'm going to go over that. And these are some things that I've thought about, because had I done basically what I had done to me when I was growing up, it probably wouldn't have turned out as well as it did for me. And there were some big differences. So my experience when I was growing up, as I was an only child, and I received my first Cub Scout knife when I was in second grade. Okay. I'm actually trying to find it. I have it somewhere in a box in my house. I still have this thing. It's a really cool knife. They quit making it, those knives, I think back around 2002. But it's a really nice knife. I got it in second grade. I loved it. I carried it all the way up, I believe, at least until I was in middle school, maybe even high school, until I switched to a different knife. But it was one of my favorites, and it still has a lot of cool features. So to me, you know, when I was looking at my kids and when they should start getting things like that, I just figured they would get them around the same time I did. And the first thing I noticed when this failed is when I made all my kids, or made my two oldest kids, slingshots when they were little. And it didn't turn out quite the same way as it did when I had slingshots. And here's why. So I'm going to go through three questions. Really, this first one has kind of a two-part question of things you should ask when you're thinking about, is your trailman ready for a pocket knife? Okay. And the first one is your trailman mature enough to, so we're going to use that mature enough to, and then we're going to kind of drill down through that list right there. So to use and maintain it. And this was really the one question that I just kind of thought was it, because when I was looking at my kids, I was like, oh yeah, you know, I can teach them how to use this, I can teach them how to maintain it, and so it should be fine. And as an only child, that's probably as far as my parents or my mom got when she was thinking about it. And if you're the only person in the house and there's no one else to worry about, that's probably all you need to worry about there. And the nice thing is, since you do have a trailman, we are going to actually teach them how to use and maintain a knife. So as a parent, this is probably something out of all these questions you have to worry the least about. It is something I recommend you learn as well, because you're going to be seeing your trailman use their knife around the house, or when they're not on with their patrol unit. And so, you know, if you see them doing it incorrectly, you should be able to correct them and show them how to properly do it. But we have a pretty rigorous sign-off process and curriculum set up to where your trailman will know how to use and maintain their tool. The next question is my trailman mature enough to carry it? Okay, so using a knife and carrying a knife are two different things, okay? And so, is your trailman mature enough to know that the knife is a tool and not a plaything? They might be able to use it correctly, but if they're getting it out when they're not supposed to be getting it out, showing it to their friends, or, you know, carry it to school where you're not supposed to do that anymore, you know, you can get in big time trouble by doing that. Are they mature enough to carry this around? And so that's something else, and that's really something that we will teach them how to properly carry the knife. We will teach them to use the knife as a tool and not as a weapon, or not as a you know, something cool to show their friends. I mean, it's definitely something to be proud of, but they need to understand it's a tool, and we will teach them that. But when this normally causes problems is when they're not at the meetings. And so that's something that as a parent you need to evaluate. Is my trailman mature enough to carry the knife? And this is the one I didn't think of, and that probably made me start thinking about this more than I had before, and that is your Trailman mature enough to store the knife? Like I said, as an only child, this never even ran across my mind because no one else was there to bother any of my things. And so if I left my pocket knife laying on the floor, it would be laying on the floor the next day when I came back. Now, you know, I've got, well, here in August I'll have 5 children, 4 on the outside of the womb right now. And so if I got my oldest child, my daughter, a pocket knife, and she was definitely mature enough to use it and maintain it, and I know she's not going to be taking it out and carrying it in places she's not supposed to, but she leaves it sitting on the floor of her room, what's going to keep one of her younger brothers from going in there and opening up and hurting himself when things aren't right? And so, at least in my family right now with my kids, this is the one that's holding me up the most, because my kids are very responsible and very highly skilled in terms of like using their hands and things like that. They seem to do really well, and I don't think they would take it into strange places. We tend to kind of keep a pretty close watch on what they're carrying around, but they do a very poor job of keeping things put up in safe areas. I'm always seeing our youngest walking around carrying stuff that he probably should not be carrying because it's fragile and breakable and special to our older children, and they didn't put it on a high enough shelf to keep it safe, and he's just walking around carrying like, oh, look at this, and just dropping it and breaking things. Nothing dangerous, but he is able to get a hold of things that they consider precious to them and do things to it that they would not want him to do. And so those, I think, are the things you need to think about. And this is the one that as a trail life leader, we don't know anything about. We don't know the maturity level of your trailmen when it comes to the storage of their knife. You know, we can tell them to put it up and things of that nature when they're not using it, and we can tell them how to properly put it in a sheath and how to store it when they're patrol unit. But at home, that storage piece is very key when there's more than one child around, or when there's younger children around that can get a hold of it and hurt themselves. So I hope you found this video useful. The next video I'm going to do, part 2, I'll actually be reviewing I think 2 knives that I have found that I think would be great first knives for trailmen, and I'll be going over kind of the philosophy of use of why that is the case, showing you where to get those, and everything about it. So that'll be a little bit more fun, a little less serious video. So stay tuned for that one. I'm trying to find my first knife first so I can kind of show it off, because I am basing some of my recommendations based upon my first knife because I thought it was such a good one. But like I said, they're not made anymore, so I use that as a template to what a trailman needs in a knife. So hope you have a good day. Hope you found the video useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Not that we're trying to get extra viewers here or anything. This is really just for our troop, but it's fun for me to see a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so and ring the bell, so anytime I put content up or new messages or updates, sometimes I will be doing it this way because I'm just at work and I can throw something up on my exam table here and fire it off really fast without having to type a bunch of stuff out, and get a lot more content out this way. So have a good day, and we'll see you next time. Walk worthy.